Hello. Okay, hello everyone. So, there'll be a few people just gently wandering quietly from the side, but we're going to get going because I know people have got flights to get to and so on and so forth. My name's Richard Holliman. I've been on the local organising committee for quite a long time. Thanks to Heather. Where's Heather? Where are you, Heather? Heather, thank you. If Heather Dorr never asks you to do anything, get it in writing how long it's going to take. Okay, so we started this PCST conference with a keynote about leading positive change. That was from our wonderful colleagues, Paul Manners and Sophie Duncan, who co-direct the UK's National Coordinating Centre. Sophie and Paul are two people who I have enormous respect for and so much admiration for more than 15 years of unfailing and quiet leadership and collaboration with the core aim of improving the university sector in the UK. I don't think there are too many people in the world that can surpass Paul and Sophie's record for sophisticated, culturally sensitive and impactful approaches to engagement. One of those very few people is our next speaker, Dr. Rajesh Tandon. Rajesh is one of two UNESCO chairs in community-based research and social responsibility in higher education. His co-chair is his longtime collaborator and friend, Bud Hall. And they've just very kindly given me a copy of their latest book, which is wonderful. It is fitting that this UNESCO chair is a partnership between a practitioner institution in the Global South through Rajesh's foundational work as the director of the Centre of Participatory Research in Asia, and a university in the Global North through Bud's work at the University of Victoria in Canada. Their work involves the Global South working with the Global North and practitioners and universities working together to empower citizens by mobilizing socially responsible co-creation of knowledge. I first came across Rajesh's work through a paper that he co-authored with Bud called Majority World Foundations in Community-Based Research. That chapter, and indeed everything I've read by Rajesh, Bud, and their collaborators since then, has resonated so powerfully with why I value PCST and why our 2025 conference is based on the themes of traditions, tensions, and transitions in the context of effecting positive change. Rajesh's work is embedded in building capacity in the Global South, but is not limited to this. He engages with practitioners and citizens, drawing on traditional and other forms of knowledge, and then moves to university settings, traditions, and transitions. Significantly, the foundations of Rajesh's approach to community-based research predates anything to do with Walter Bodmer's 1985 Royal Society report on ideas about deficit by at least more than a decade. Rajesh was engaging through participatory approaches to community-based research well before the Global North mainstreamed use of these terms. As Rajesh and Bud argue in the introduction to that chapter I mentioned, we challenge the Eurocentric bias of much contemporary scholarship in the field of community-based research. Tensions. I've learned so much from reading about their work and look forward to doing so in the future. For now, what can we expect from a keynote by Dr. Rajesh Tandon? In 2018, Rajesh delivered a keynote address at the NCCPE's conference. And I look back at the program to see how he was introduced by Paul and Sophie. The program states, and I quote, "Expect to be challenged, delighted, and provoked to think differently about the role of universities and their place in the world." I can think of no better way to introduce our final speaker at PCST 25.
Namaskar. Thank you, Richard, and thank you, Heather, and of course, Madam President. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this conference. Prior to this, I had not formally interacted with the fraternity of science communicators. And I am delighted that I am here last 3 days, along with my co-chair, Bud Hall, Professor Bud Hall, because what I am going to share with you is vision of a movement where your contribution can be significant. I might, in my presentation, provoke you, as Richard said, but I hope you will join me at the end of my speech in working together towards a better future for everybody, everywhere. As Sophie and Paul began the conference, they always have ideas which inspire, trees which flourish. And yesterday, Professor Sarita's presentation from Brazil was also resonated a great deal with the work we have been doing. So topic of my presentation is reconnecting society with science. As you notice, society comes first, not science. And I want to share with you my understanding of what has happened in this connection or disconnection over these years. The most successful science communication project in the global south was Green Revolution. From 1960s, early 60s onwards, science communication in myriad forms, and I have just 2 visuals for you to look at from the part of the world I come from. And Green Revolution produced significant improvement in agriculture productivity and prevented famines in many parts of the global south, increased domestic supply of basic food grains in my country, in India, as in many other countries with significant numbers of poor people. But we know what happened as Green Revolution began to spread. There were implications for reduced soil fertility, water contamination, and impact on human health of all those myriad chemicals which were used in fertilizers and pesticides. And I want to say that this was a very successful science communication initiative around the world. It did change farmer behavior, and for a number of years, it did change consumer behavior too. But these implications, though they were emerging from the first decade itself, the writings of these dangerous implications for human beings and for agriculture and water from the mid-70s, but the campaign for Green Revolution continued. In recent times, COVID times, again, a massive science communication effort took place. You may remember 2 significant pieces of advice given to everybody around the world. Wash your hands frequently and maintain 2 meters of distance. Some places it was called 6 feet, but otherwise, more or less. The picture I am showing you is a set of slums in Nairobi, and you can see the science communication message. not only in these slums, but in informal urban poor settlements around the world, neither enough water was available to wash your hands, nor there was any space to remain distant by 6 feet. Was it a failure of science? Or was it a disconnect of science communication? This is a question that I want to pose to you because it is important to ask ourselves in the fraternity of science communicators, in the young professionals in science communication, in the teaching and curriculum of science communication that you all are part of, that are we looking at science communication as what was the message in the early days of Green Revolution, lab to land. Lab was where science was produced, and lab took the messages of lab through science communication to the land where water and land was contaminated. So is the purpose of science communication, the role of the communicator, only one way? From lab to the community? Is it to use the knowledge that scientists produce in labs to influence and shape behavior of people outside? Is this communication adequate? Or is there another role for science communicators? Can that arrow go both ways? Can the evidence, the disconnect, the lack of physical space, or the contamination of water, can those messages return to the scientists and challenge them to think afresh? Otherwise, in this way, science communication profession may well be called marketing profession. Because without mutuality, no communication is sustainable. And mutuality requires returning the messages back to the lab or the scientists in the lab and challenging them based on what we are hearing from the communities. I want you to think about that question, not because I'm provoking you, but because that is a question that is important to remember. Are we sales agents, marketing agents for chemicals and fertilizers in case of Green Revolution? Or are we more than that, communicators with values for the well-being of all? Let me turn my attention to my grandmother. I used to call her Nani, in my language. My grandmother, my mother's mother is Nani, grandmother. This is a plant in a family where I grew up, in the middle of the house, joint family. My semi-literate, almost illiterate grandmother would gather together all the young kids. I was 7, 8 years old that time, and ask us to stand there, fold our hands while she prayed and sang some prayers in front of this plant. And as an 8-year-old, I was desperate to return to playground along with my cousins, and I could not understand the purpose of all this, except that there was some prasadam, some sweets after this. And by and large, for next 20 years, I wondered what kind of stupid activity this was, what kind of superstition this was. It was in late 70s when some corporate houses tried to patent this plant called tulsi. So, in common parlance, holy basil plant. That a counter movement took place about the utility of this plant to heal, to increase immunity, and the largest presence of this plant appeared around the world, I am told, during COVID, because everybody wanted immunity. So, was this a mere superstition of my grandmother or grandmothers like her? A stupid, semi-literate woman? Or was there some deeper understanding of this plant, but also this kind of species? Was her knowledge, which she could not explain in a scientific chemistry formula, but was that knowledge valid, relevant for human civilization? And there are many other grandmothers in every part of the world whose knowledge has been ignored or laughed at, but later on discovered to be valid. Compare Green Revolution science knowledge, which 40 years later we are proposing organic and natural. The amount of science communication going on in promoting organic and natural is much less than the amount of science communication that went in marketing chemical fertilizers and chemical pesticides. Is something similar happening to my grandmother and your grandmother and every grandmother's knowledge, to people in the indigenous communities whose knowledge was dismissed as superstition, mumbo jumbo, but holds seeds of ancestral experiential wisdom relevant even today. A question to consider. Since the beginning of this conference, we have been talking about open science. I want to start with closed science. You know what this is? This is a map of refereed journal and book publications around the world. It's a 6-7-year-old pre-COVID map, but I don't think the map has changed significantly since then. Does this represent the totality of knowledge available to human civilization today? Or does this represent that piece of academic knowledge which is published in refereed journals and books controlled by, as an industry, 5 publishers globally? Some of them may be here. I'm not blaming you as an individual. Look at the system. Look at the system. There is no knowledge coming from Africa. In October last year, in Addis Ababa, African Union and UNESCO convened a consultation on African knowledge for just and sustainable transformation. I had the privilege to attend it along with many African colleagues. There were African researchers, African indigenous scholars, science policy people, science communicators, international research funders. What surprised me was a common echo in that beautiful large building of African Union in Addis, built by the Chinese, by the way, where everybody talked about the relevance of African indigenous knowledge for Africa's future development, but not just Africa's future development, for the world's future development. And if the source of our civilization, if the origins of our original ancestors walked from the plateau of Ethiopia to the rest of the world and became our grandparents and grandmothers, then surely Africa and African people have a body of knowledge which this closed science does not represent. I have great respect for science. I am an electronics engineer trained by the best from India. I value what goes on in physics and chemistry labs and biology studies. I've gone through it myself. But I've realized that if what I have learned in academia makes me arrogant and dismissive of my grandmother's knowledge, then that education is not going to help me or others in the future. So, my appeal to you, and through you to others, is to talk about open science when you realize that it is not merely the first green part of this circle, all of you have seen it, or the pink part. Green is open data, pink is open science infrastructure, access to labs and software. It's also the yellow and the blue, and the yellow is what we have been discussing. Many of you in your visiting card that I collected so diligently last 3 days talk about your role as a manager or a promoter of public engagement. And when we promote public engagement, when we talk about co-construction of knowledge, whether it is in the field of public health or in agriculture, nutrition, or hydrology, or in any aspects of, social and gender relations, when we talk about open engagement, why bother? Why bother to engage with community? Why bother to do co-construction of knowledge if we alone have all the knowledge? Why waste time? Okay, it is fashionable, funders like it, we will write something about it. No. We bother about it because of the blue. Because they have a body of knowledge which I don't have. And that body of knowledge, when working in synergy with my body of knowledge, can produce actionable, transformative knowledge solutions for challenges of our times. So when we partner, when you do public engagement, when you talk about public engagement, let's think about what knowledge those publics have without going to our universities. What lived experience knowledge they have, what experiential knowledge they have, what knowledge they have from their ancestors and elders, which we have hitherto ignored, devalued, and dismissed. So the true test of open science is not just to co-construct, co-produce, and co-utilize knowledges in academia and knowledges in society and community, but also to give that co-produced knowledge co-recognition, co-ownership, co-authorship and co-benefits derived from the same. Today, the greatest challenge to co-construction of knowledge to public engagement is the ethical question of denying that ownership, that benefit sharing of the new knowledge produced through public engagement. So our real test, yours and mine, would be when this previous map dramatically changes when we include community knowledge in our partnership. And I look forward to working with you to make that possible wherever you are. How do we move ahead? We move ahead on the basis of where we stand. Because if we try to jump ahead, we're going to fall on our face and break our noses. Each one of us in our locations, in our profession, in our context, in our institutions, stands on certain professional and personal ground. And I deliberately want to bring in the personal. Because a large part of this is our value system. Inclusion of other knowledges is not a cognitive exercise for an evening lecture by Professor Tandon. Inclusion is something that you believe in your heart and you practice in your daily life inside the lab and outside the lab, because the disconnect is not possible. So what we talk about as an idea to move forward, and we hope that you all will join this movement, we call it the knowledge democracy movement. In the period we are living in, since the turn of this millennium, knowledge, control over knowledge, its patenting and its tight ownership is what makes Googles and Apples billionaires and trillionaires. Don't forget that. So we are up against, in 2025, a different period of control over knowledge than was the case 100 years ago. So we have to acknowledge that sites and forms of knowledge are multiple. That purpose of knowledge is public good, not private benefit. One could say the same for higher education, where we are all studied and formally accredited and certified. Knowledge for public good will ensure that COVID-19 vaccine is available to every citizen around the world, and that our ability to pay will not determine our health. Think about that. Knowledge for private gain has accelerated in the last 3 decades. And if we want to change that, we have to start from here. I have mentioned the issue of shared and ethical ownership. And may I intrude a little bit in your profession and say diversity in the forms of knowledge communication. Use of folk music was very popular in Green Revolution. But the use of folk theater is not so popular for organic agriculture. But these multiple forms of communication open up the possibility that we don't have to rely on the written word or merely a pamphlet for communicating new knowledge. And as we have practiced, by the way, 2025 is 50 years of participatory research. And please give me a hand clap for that. 5 decades of participatory research, and as Richard mentioned in his introduction, Bud and I were busy doing this work on the ground with communities and practitioners everywhere, till the turn of the millennium when we discovered that the academic interest has increased. And since has been ballooning. In fact, now, if you don't use this language, you won't get funded. Steve is here somewhere, okay. So, knowledge democracy movement has to be taken forward from wherever we stand. Don't compare ourselves with what others are doing, but think of how you can include those knowledges which have been dismissed, devalued, excluded, ignored in the work you are doing. How can we provide a model of communication which is not just one way, and how we can enhance the possibility that the dialogues and interactions between knowledge produced in the labs and the knowledge produced in people's lives and communities gets a meaningful conversation. One of the recent research projects that Bud and I have been working on is called Decode, Decolonized Co-Construction of Knowledge. We have selected 10 case studies to demonstrate how community-led, context-specific knowledge is produced, sometimes in partnership with academically trained researchers, and sometimes not. We are discovering that we talk about my grandmother's knowledge. It was not in English, French, or Spanish. It was not even in chaste Hindi, which I learned growing up as my mother tongue. It was actually a mixture of Urdu and Hindi, which she learned when she was growing up. So what does it mean? That if we want to engage with community knowledge, indigenous knowledge, we have to engage it in a culturally embedded and expressed in local language. The ritual of worshipping Tulsi tree needed to be understood more than a prayer. That it was an expression of belief that the leaves of this tree will keep my family healthy. And the kids will learn to chew them or eat them when they are mixed with food here and there. So, cultural context, understanding rituals embedded in these cultures, and of course, expression of local languages, because that's where community knowledge, indigenous knowledge is. And you may not be surprised because you have perhaps heard this and seen this, but community knowledge always has a worldview behind it. In the normal science, you perhaps all have heard of, Structure of Scientific Revolution, the book by Thomas Kuhn. But in the normal science, rituals, worldviews, perspectives are called contamination. Because in normal science, one has to be objective. One has to leave one's personal behind in the car or in the scooter or bicycle or wherever and become professional when doing science. Not so with community knowledge. Their worldviews are the ones which protect overexploitation of land, forest, water, and vegetations, including other living species. So, when we interact with community knowledge, when we interact with indigenous knowledge, we will be discomforted. We will become full of anxiety and tension. We will worry about contamination because our objectivity will start receding. But that is an essential part of inclusive and what we call ecologies of knowledge. So, this is just a slide from one of the case studies in bridging in this decode, where knowledges of the community are being expressed, but we have a website. What you will find when you go to this website is that each of these case studies are also in the mother tongue. Each of these story maps, and my dear colleague Carmen has helped construct these, each of these story maps also are in their mother tongues. Acholi in Uganda, Hindi in Himalayas in India, Bhasa in Malaysia. And why? Because that's the language they speak, that's the language in which they reflect, and that's the language which is the source of their own knowledge. Finally, a lot of work is going on the issue of climate resilience. We are all worried about climate impacts, and naturally so. In our experience, unless we embrace diversity, and in this conversation, knowledge diversity, unless we embrace multiple meanings and sites of knowledge, our effort at climate resilience are, in my view, not going to succeed. Because we will repeat the same. We will do the same again and again. In much of the discourse on alternative energy, new energy, Aberdeen is the location, oil and energy center of the North, and Madam Chair is a professor in the Energy Institute in Korea, newly established, as I learned. There is a lot of discussion about replacing oil and coal with some other forms of energy. But there is no discussion about limits to energy consumption. There is no discussion about limits to how much we can use sunshine and wind and all those other natural, as if that supplies available forever. So, when we embrace diversity, we value inclusive knowledges, and we respect pluriversity. Pluriversity is a way of understanding coming from different knowledge perspectives, not different disciplines of the same knowledge system as we do in university. So university is multiple disciplines, same knowledge system. Pluriversity is multiple knowledge systems understanding a similar phenomena. And I think sustainability in everyday action will be the call if we want to do climate resilience. Hence, what is the science we are communicating? Whom are we communicating? What are we communicating to scientists themselves? And how can science be inclusive? How can the knowledge system be inclusive in such a way that it ensures sustainability and a just future for us all? Otherwise, we are heading into a world which may not allow us to meet very frequently in conferences. Thank you very much.
Okay. That was fabulous. You blow my mind every time. Thank you. Okay, we've got time for a couple of questions. So most of the people in the audience are probably on board with everything you said. I know certainly I am. But many researchers in the lab might not be. So what are your ideas for trying to bring them along?
To make you my allies. You are the bridge between the world of science as it is currently practiced and the audiences to whom your communications are going. It is important that in the training of young researchers, we talk about the full framework of open science. That conversation is not happening. Every time we have organized a webinar on open science in South Asia, young researchers will come out and say, we never heard of these third and fourth, the yellow and the blue that you show. I say, I'm not showing. This is in the UNESCO document. These colors are provided by UNESCO. So conversation with young researchers. And my experience is that they are willing to have, eager to have impact on the ground of the work they do in knowledge. And they realize that that impact doesn't happen only by writing books or papers. But they don't have access to other ways of figuring this out. And as the bridge between the world of current science and the world of future science, which includes community and indigenous knowledges, inclusive knowledges, you are the bridge. So you can play a very important role through your communication expertise. Just don't let the arrow go one way. Move it around. Communicate with the scientists as well.
Beautiful answer. Okay. I love this question, and you've got so many examples. This is going to be a bit of a challenge for you, Rajesh. Is it possible to engage with communities and their knowledge systems meaningfully through quantitative approaches? In other words, is it only possible to do non-extractive research and engagement through participatory action research or ethnographic-based approaches?
Many years ago, nearly 40 years now, you have seen photographs of Mumbai, Bombay, like any other metropolitan global south, lots of people living in informal settlements, euphemistically called slums. So I was involved in a research study with pavement dwellers in Mumbai. And these are the people who live on the pavements, off the streets, and some of them have even born on the pavements. The provincial government had, without any evidence, made a law saying throw them out and throw them out of Bombay. This throwing out happens around the world, even today. And these people were getting organized, 40,000 households, did a survey, quantitative survey. They needed to go to the court to prevent their displacement. So they needed a survey. They talked to a few academics whom they knew, and they said it'll take $100,000, and we have design, and we have to. And these were early days of computerization, so all that. So then some of the people working with them, a civil society group working with them, contacted me, and they had heard about participatory research. And they said, can something be done? It will take time, they said. No, I said, no, let's go. I came to Mumbai from Delhi, and we met a dozen colleagues from that CSO, from that NGO, and through them, we mobilized 50 field investigators, boys and girls, in grades 7th, 8th, 9th, with good old-fashioned white sheet where you can note down responses. And we jointly framed only 5 questions because the capacity to do large-scale survey in short time was limited. But they gave us the questions. How many? When did they come? What contribution they are making to local economy? All of those people living on pavements were maids, drivers, vegetable vendors. They were providing cheap service to middle class of Mumbai because they were living on the footpath. If they were living in a fancy rented house, that service would have cost 5 times. Same way as you make apple in India, it will cost you $5,000 apple in USA, it will cost you $5,000 in US. So the survey was done. 1 week, they took the group of 7, 8 women and 2, 3 young boys, took the survey to the local court, High Court, and said, this is the data. High Court gave an injunction. The problem is not on tools and methods. Quantitative data, computerized data analysis, use of SPSS and all these fancy packages is not the issue. The issue is, do we have a partnership? Do we have a relationship? Do we have a purpose to the research that communities find resonating with their lives? And do we want context-specific, actionable knowledge? Many a times, academic compulsion is generalizable knowledge. Generalizable knowledge, like generalizable prescriptions and policies, doesn't work for anybody. Why do we need global knowledge for... Keep on, yeah? My apologies. Well, why do we need global knowledge if we have to address the climate problem on the Bay of Bengal of India, which is on the east side, south of Bangladesh, fisher folk being displaced because of climate issues, and similarly in Arabian Sea towards Dubai? The 2 ecologies are not same. The 2 sociologies are not same. They will have to take action differently. Yes, you need a meta-science, but that doesn't require all researchers to be busy in meta-science. Some of us can do context-specific, actionable knowledge production.
Okay. Sorry. No, you never need to apologize, Rajesh. You never need to apologize. We have unfortunately run out of time and we need to move on. But I can tell you, sorry, I'm going to get emotional. There are so many stories like that. Go read Rajesh and Bud, and we will move on. Thank you.
Okay, we're not quite finished yet, and this is the point I think that everyone's going to start to get emotional. But I'm going to start bringing a few people up because we've got a few announcements that we need to give and before the end of the conference. So firstly, I'm going to invite Alice to come up to reveal who was the winner of the poster competition, because we've got these things to do as well. So welcome, Alice.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you, first of all, to the more than 100 people who cast a vote. I was very impressed because I know that was a very long list of posters to choose from. We have 2 winners today for our poster competition, one for physical display and one for the digital display. And each of those winners has very generously been provided a complimentary registration to the 2027 PCST Conference in Shanghai. Thank you, Shanghai team, for that. The physical display. I'm very pleased to give this award to Yi-Jung Lee for bridging tradition and technology, Jie Qi, and Farmer's Calendar in Taiwan. Did I hear it? Are you here right now? Yes? Okay, thank you. Congratulations. Great. And for our digital display, I'm very pleased to present the poster award to Gabriella Heck for transitioning to better engagement with the deaf community in museums. Is Gabriella here? Congratulations. And congratulations to all of the posters. They were incredible, and thank you to everybody for taking part in this decision process. Thank you.
Okay, hopefully we're going to get everything in the right order to get through the things, but I'm going to invite the PCST treasurer up. Are you going to come up as well? And PCST president, Suk Young, to present our new PCST award.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. So it's my great pleasure to host our short but important first ever PCST award ceremony. This award was founded fresh new this year, 2025, and we did it as PCST Scientific Committee to recognize the efforts that support professional development of science communicators, that support building science communication infrastructure, efforts that increase the prestige of our profession, that raise awareness about its importance, and efforts that support professional culture of science communication. And this would not be possible without having a sponsor, which is the JIST School of AI Policy and Strategy from Republic of Korea. And I have a short message of Professor Yona Kim, the president of the school, for all of us. Dear PCST conference attendees, recently the fields of science and technology and AI are making rapid developments and bring deep changes to our daily lives and society. Excellent science communication is essential for science to be socially trusted and to achieve sustainable development throughout these changes. The PCST award is focused on enhancing the professionalism of science communication worldwide, promoting its importance. We are very happy to have our school to sponsor the award, and we will continue to support the development of science communication together with PCST Network. Congratulations to all the participants and winners. So I cannot agree more. And now we will have the ceremony. I hope you already know the shortlisted for that award are our great esteemed colleagues, Lilian Fischer from Germany, Tos Gascon from Australia, Susanna Hacker from Germany, Susana Herrera Lima from Mexico, Bruce Levenstein from the USA, and Brooke Smith, USA. So now, huge round of applause, and we will know first the runners-up and the winner. So the runners-up are Tos Gascon and Susana Herrera Lima. Tos, please come here. Tos, here he is. Susana, unfortunately, is not here. So now we will present the certificates, and we also have a cash prize for the award that we will be handling separately. Again, congratulations. Congratulations also to Susana Herrera Lima. Send her our greetings. So now the moment is, I need the, you know, so the winner is Bruce. Thank you very, very much. Yes, photos are important. Thank you very, very much. My congratulations again to Bruce and Toss and Susanna and to all the shortlisters and to everyone who sent us their CVs, their projects. I think it's very, very important for us to have that kind of recognized, you were already our reference points, but there are recognized reference points that will for sure inspire future generations of science communicators. And we will carry on with the WOD. Thank you all very much. Sorry, one last thing. Shortlisters, please come to me after the ceremony. I have certificates for you. Thank you very much.
So now it's time for me to announce the results of the election for the Scientific Committee. Before I do that, I want to firstly say a big thank you to all the members of the Scientific Committee who are leaving us after this election, amongst which our President Suk-Yung. So Suk-Yung, thank you so much. And I've been told that I'm not supposed to say anything more, but I'm going to break the rules. I think I want to really recognize what Suk-Yung has done for PCST in terms of bringing us into a much more open and much more international community, particularly with the relationship with the Asian countries, which has been incredibly valuable and worthwhile, but also seeing through a big transition time at PCST. So I think we really should thank her so very much. And now I'm going to announce the votes. And I've been told to be very quick, so I'm just going to say your name, please wave, and then I'll go along. We have 5 members from Europe, the standard 4 plus 1 to replace somebody who resigned. Massimiano Bucchi. Where are you, Massi? Anna Godino. Please wave or stand up if you can. Alexandra Barisova. Anna Dreitek. And Autumn Brown. Autumn, are you here? Okay. And then we have 4 from the Americas and Africa. Sharon Chiba. Sharon, if you're here. Hey. Diogo Lopez de Oliveira. Daniela Martin. And Miguel Guerrero. We also have 4 new elected members from Asia and Australia and the rest of the world. Kei Kano. Kei. Where is Kei? Hiromi Yokoyama. Hiromi. Hao Jin. And Mark Ivan Robles. Mark, you here? And we have 3 under 35s, again, 2 from the standard elections, plus 1 to replace somebody who's resigned. Nicoletta Valanzano, I should have had my glasses, I would read it better. Arifan Chen. And Sao Chang Sun. And lastly, 1 student representative, Niels Chow. And that's the new members of the scientific committee, so please make them all welcome. And just one last thing around membership. A quick thank you to Heather Doran, who has been pretty incredible and has done so much for us. And on behalf of the scientific committee, we also want to recognize you with a lifetime membership to PCST.
Thank you. Thank you, Heather. Thank you. Now I'm going to give thanks to everybody else. Oh.
Yeah, are you going to cry? Are you going to cry? Yeah. And now that she's going to cry, I'm going to walk away.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I've got some people that I need to thank as well, so we need to run through all of that to thank everyone who has made this possible. So, firstly, I want to thank everyone on the local organising committee who's been working over the past 9, 10 years, however many years it has been, many years, to make this conference happen, and also recognise that the local organising committee has been in place for that amount of time. So thank you to Ken Skeldon, to Richard Holliman, to Melanie Smallman, Donna McCallum, Steve Tucker, Wael Hussein, and Chris Crawley, who have all been a huge part of making this happen here in Aberdeen. And thank you to our programme committee, to Richard Holliman, Guyan Wang, Declan Fahy, Jemana Barata, Martin van der Sanden, Marlet Hazlett, and Lars Wenther as well, who have worked to pull together this mammoth programme, which I think you'll appreciate. We had enough content to fill about 2 months worth of PCST content, so I think we've done pretty well to get through it. We wanted to give everybody an opportunity to speak, and I think we've managed to do that as part of the programme. And really thank you for all the creative and new ideas and wonderful abstracts that people presented. I also want to give a big thanks to the team at the University of Aberdeen who pulled together all of the logistics and all of the planning. Without them, we would not have been able to do this. We would not have been able to host as many bursary awardees as we did. They undertook all of the planning for the transportation. They are the ones that uploaded all of your presentations, all 500 plus of them, to the system. So I want to give a huge thank you to Nikki Pierce, Heather MacDonald, Rachel Elliott, Julie Dixon, Jade McCowan, Jessica Hippie, and Kate Koleski as well, who have all worked hard. And I'm sure many of you have spoken to them on the desk downstairs, or if not there, via email. So a big thank you to them. We've also our student ambassadors, Lily, Noah, Hamed, Laura, Izzy, and Kaylee, who have also been supporting everyone around the venue this week. So I want to give a big thank you to them. And last but not least, give a thank you to the venue. When we started planning the conference, this venue was not built. It was an idea. We didn't know. We asked at the time if things were going to be ready for the 2020 conference, and we have seen it from a plan on paper to something that has been realised. There isn't another space in Aberdeen that could host this number of people. So really grateful for them. They have been involved from the very, very start of the bid and been part of making this happen. So thank you to the venue, the staff, the catering, the security staff that have all contributed to keeping you all safe, making sure you all get to the places that you need to, and have provided everything to make this conference possible. So thank you to them. I also want to give a thanks to the band, to Lewis and the Cayley band last night, who provided a great party. I'm sure many of you, if you didn't know Lewis already, will now know Lewis, so that is great, that's wonderful. And I think that is everything that we need to run through, because now it's my turn to hand over to what comes next. So if we can go on, oh, I've got a clicker, I can do this, I've forgotten how to do it. We will have a conference in 2 years' time, but before we get to that, there are opportunities to gather with PCST at symposiums that will be held. So 2 that are planned already. We have a symposium in Tokyo, in Japan, November this year between the 11th of November and 13th of November. The information and sign up for that is open. And then later in the year, we will have, early in 2026, in February, we will have a symposium in Dubai. These regional conferences give an opportunity for closer conversations focused on particular topics and challenges. So I hope you join us at those. And that is my cue now to hand over to the next conference, which will be in 2027 in Shanghai. So I'm going to welcome up the team so they can give you an introduction. There we go. Thank you. Right. Thank you so much. Oh, I'm going to leave those lines.
So 2 years ago, when we bid for the PCST 2027 conference, we shared a story of one of our students, and 2 years later, this student would love to extend his warmest welcome to all of you to Shanghai in 2027. So ladies and gentlemen, I give you Why Shanghai. Okay, please, DJ, please start the video.
现在的人工智能，然后我们现在配一张这个照片，它就可以识别出来这个是什么东西。Hi, Memo. I'm Bin Cheng, a student at Shanghai Jiao Tong University. This is my hometown, Yunnan Lincang. My hometown is on the border of southwest China. I am a Wa, one of the oldest indigenous ethnic minority groups residing in China. This is where my scientific dreams began. It's 3,000 kilometers from Shanghai. It takes me 2 days to get home during the Chinese New Year's holiday. As the only Wa student, people in my hometown always ask me, what is the source of science and technology? I think everyone has their own answer. At Jiao Tong University, I seem to have discovered that the science resonates with our cultural symbols and codes. The respect for life and nature instilled in me by my cultural knowledge has been realized in Shanghai.
So why did you come to Shanghai?
Because Shanghai hides the key to unlocking the code of life. I'm now a doctor-to-be. I've come to realize the imbalance of technological development and resources. And I've come to realize the significance of communication of science and technology, sharing the future. Remote surgery, AI drug development, science is everywhere. Sharing technology, results, and knowledge communication continues to break the boundaries of science, let more people really feel the power and charm of it. Why Shanghai? Because Shanghai depicts a blueprint for a shared future. Maybe it's because I studied medicine, I can feel that Shanghai is a huge living organism sometimes. It can see. It can hear. It can smell. It can touch. I think every street is the pulse of Shanghai. Every river is the blood of Shanghai. Every building is the bones of Shanghai. Why Shanghai? Because Shanghai contains the infinite vitality of urban life. You ask me why I go to Shanghai. I think it's because Shanghai, where tradition meets innovation. Shanghai, where the symbiosis of industries fuels creativity. Shanghai, where diverse cultures thrive. From my hometown to Shanghai, 3,000 kilometers is the road I have traveled. From the past to the future, the search for science never stops. And the communication of science and technology is a bridge between you and me. Always reminds me of where I come from and how science communication is changing the world. Let's meet a shared future in Shanghai.
And I know what you're wondering. What happens after Shanghai? So we thought we might let you know, because I know you were getting a little bit stressed about this. Have I? You want me to do it? Okay, well, we had an amazing large amount of bids to host PCST 2029. And we're very, very excited to let you know that the conference after Shanghai will be held in Mexico City. And knowing where we're going to be in 2029, we also know where we're going to be in 2027, and we'll see you all there. And with that, the conference is closed. Thank you so much.